Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and what to expect from them in 2021. Before we get started though, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoy the video and let's dive right into it. So the Pittsburgh Steelers offense last year was really good for the first 11 games and terrible for the last 5 games. And if we look at the numbers for them, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 3,800 yards, James Conner rushed for 700 yards, and Diontae Johnson caught 923 receiving yards. So overall, this was a season that was really disappointing for the Steelers. They started the year off 11-0, ended off losing basically the last 5 games. I think that maybe they started off 10-0. No, I think they started off 10-0. Then they went up. They ended up finishing the season like 1-5. They ended up finishing 11-5. I know that. But overall, it was just a disappointing year for the Steelers team. It really was. And they didn't end up making it far in the playoffs either, right? Thought that at some point they might have been going undefeated, but it just collapsed on them. And that was because, in a large part, their offense, right? Their offense, they could not push the ball down the field in those last few weeks of the season. And they relied too much on the short, intermediate passing game to make up for their lack of a run game. So really, at that point, when they couldn't run the football, that was a massive issue for them last season. They couldn't run the football at all, which made passing and throwing the football a lot more difficult too. So remember, that was kind of the storyline of the Steelers last season. But let's just talk about their stats last season. So total offense-wise, they're going to be pretty high. Or at least higher than you think. They're going to be number 12 in total offense in last season. And passing offense-wise, that they're probably going to be around that same area. Where are they? They ended up finishing 15th in passing offense. And then in rushing offense, they were near the bottom of the league in that regard. Actually, they were the worst team in the league. Number 32 in the league in rushing offense. They were the worst run offense in the entire league last year. So it was a tough season offensively for the Steelers, especially after how it started. But how have the Steelers changed things going in to this season? So for starters, they definitely cleaned a little bit of house. They brought in Matt Canada as their new offensive coordinator. He was with the team last year as their quarterbacks coach, as this doesn't want to, load. Here we go. But basically what Matt Canada wants to do, I think this is actually really good. I was reading this article a little bit earlier today. He wants to reinvent this Steelers offense. And what I mean by reinvent is he wants to add some things. He wants to bring his college experience. Obviously, he's been an offensive coordinator, and he's coached offenses before at the college level. And he wants to infuse that idea of pre-snap motion and jet sweeps into this offense. He wants this offense to be fast. He wants to use the new age football and motion to really help give this offense a new look. And with that said, they're going to be out of the gun. They're not going to be out of under center as much. But he really wants to make sure that this is much more of a pass happy offense in a way that's more balanced, right? And what I mean by pass happy in a balanced way is it doesn't mean that they're throwing the football every time, but what it means is that they're running the football to run the football, and then when they're throwing the football, they're throwing the football, but it's based off the run game. But it's all to get production as throwing the football. So overall, that really made no sense. I explained that really badly. But Matt Canada is going to be the new offensive coordinator. I think he's going to do very similar things to what we saw from the Steelers last year, but he's really going to try and fix the Steelers offense by adding that pre-snap motion, by adding that young talent. And really making sure that he can scheme guys open and not really just rely on short intermediate passing, but utilize Big Ben's arm. So if we look at the Steelers, and their depth chart for a sec, you can see Ben Roethlisberger is going to be their starting quarterback next year. And I mean, there's no concern with that in the fact that is he or is he not going to be a starting quarterback? He's going to be a starting quarterback. The real concern is he good enough to be a starting quarterback at this point in his career? And for me, I made a video about this a few months ago where I did a Ben Roethlisberger film session where I don't actually think that video did too well. But nonetheless, I talked about why I still think he still has it in the tank and he's still good enough to play in the NFL. If you look at the stats, 3,800 receiving yards, 16th in the NFL last year, 33 touchdowns, tied for 7th, and 10 interceptions, which was tied for 18th. But overall, a 3.3 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio is still really good. And, sure, he's getting up there in age. He's going to be age 39 next season. But overall, he's a guy that can throw the football well. And when he's on, he is on. 60.1 QBR last year. He got the ball out quicker than anyone else in the NFL because that offensive line was so bad there in Pittsburgh. Didn't give him any time to throw the football. But nonetheless, this was a quarterback that played some good football at times last year. He really did, and the whole narrative of Ben Roethlisberger is too old and he has a noodle arm, I don't think is true. He can still throw the deep ball. We saw that last year to Diontae Johnson. We saw that to Chase Claypool. We saw that to Juju Smith-Schuster, especially in that game against who was it? It was against Indianapolis late in the season. So overall, I still think that Ben Roethlisberger has left in the tank. I think if this offense ends up failing, it won't be because of Big Ben. It would probably end up being because of the O-line. But this offense has Big Ben, and with Big Ben, he put up big numbers last year. But more importantly, he's got weapons around him. Najee Harris picked up in the first round of the NFL draft, 24th overall. It's exactly what they needed at the running back position. They need a hard-nosed runner that can also catch the ball out of the backfield. That's exactly what Najee Harris does. He's a true, complete running back. He's a good pass catcher, good runner, can run in between the tackles. He doesn't quite have that elite speed, but at the end of the day, he's tough, he's physical, he likes to pound the rock, and he can really take and carry an offense on his back. And that's what we saw him do at Alabama, and I think that's something he could do in Pittsburgh, really help this run game out that was absolutely putrid and terrible last year in Pittsburgh. Wide receiver-wise, though, this is a deep wide receiver team. Juju Smith-Schuster, for me, is not really a wide receiver one anymore in the NFL, although he wants to be paid like a wide receiver one. He ended up re-signing with this Steelers team, but he had 97 catches last year for 831 receiving yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. Notice the 8.6 average yards per reception. That tells a lot about what he was doing. A lot of his routes were underneath routes. A lot of his routes were in that short intermediate passing game because, once again, the Steelers really relied on Juju Smith-Schuster to work on that intermediate and shorter routes without a true run game. If Juju Smith-Schuster really wants to help his team out, he's going to need to be able to run those deeper routes and be successful off those deeper routes. And that stuff he did do well. He did spread the field out when he was asked to last year, and he has that speed to be dynamic in open space. But overall, it really comes down to how these wide receivers can complement and work with each other. And I think that's an interesting thing to look at too. Chase Claypool was fantastic last year too. 62 catches, 873 yards, and 9 receiving touchdowns. Remember, he went on a tear for a few weeks where he had back-to-back touchdown games. I think he had one game where he had 4 touchdowns. He was absolutely phenomenal for the Steelers team. And the reason he was so phenomenal is because he used his size and his speed and that rare mix of size and speed at 6'4", 240 pounds, with his blazing speed and ability to get downfield, where he really helped spread out defenses and be a big touchdown guy for the Steelers team. He's also a versatile weapon. You can line him up in different areas, and he's a guy that I think could take another step forward next season. I think we could see 1,000 yards from him. I think we could see 8 touchdowns from him, and I think we could see 70-plus catches from him. So overall, I think that Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, those guys need to work well together, but also Diontae Johnson needs to work well together. You need to remember Diontae Johnson, I think, actually ended up leading the league in drops. And you can see it. 144 targets, and he only had 88 catches. Wow. And I think he had like 20-something drops, no, maybe not 20-something drops, but he did have a lot of drops. 7 touchdowns, 923 yards, and 88 catches. Once again, really helped spread out the field a lot, but most of his production was in that short intermediate passing game. So once again, I like the receivers that this Pittsburgh's team has. I really do. I think that Juju Smith-Schuster is a top 30 receiver in the NFL. Chase Claypool showed that he has that potential. And Diontae Johnson, when he's able to catch the football, can be really, really good. It's just more, one, can Diontae Johnson catch the football? Can Chase Claypool take that next step? And can Juju Smith-Schuster find some production outside of 10 yards? Really, those are the questions. And Ben Roethlisberger, I think he can still push the ball down the field. I talked about it in my film session. But overall, I love the receivers on this team. The weapons cannot be an excuse. Also, Eric Ebron, once again, really had a good, solid, fantastic year last year. For a guy who has been on the decline, I think, a little bit of late. 56 catches, 558 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, but more importantly, he's a big red zone threat for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So once again, it comes down to the offensive weapons. These offensive weapons are going to be good. And Pat Freiermuth, too, out of Penn State, they drafted him in the second round. I think it was 42nd overall, maybe, or something like that. He is a really good pass-catching tight end. Kind of is the thing that I heard a lot about coming into the draft was he's a baby Rob Gronkowski. I don't know how much I agree with with that, but you can just see that kind of comparison really just shows, what he's all about and what he's able to bring. So once again, weapons will not be the issue with the Steelers team. It's never the issue with the Steelers team. It's more play calling and then obviously the offensive line that we'll get to in a second. But Najee Harris is going to be good at running back. He has the potential to rush for 1,000 yards if the offensive line can actually do some blocking. But pass catchers, all three of those top pass catchers have the ability to get 1,000 receiving yards. Eric Ebron and Pat Freiermuth are really good tight ends. And I just think that there's so many weapons on this offense for them to have to be a top 20 offense in the NFL, no matter what. And I don't care how that O-line plays, but I really do believe that this offense has to be top 20, even if this O-line is the worst in the NFL, just because of the true talent that is on this team. But, let's talk about the offensive line now. Obviously, David DeCastro is one of the better right guards in the NFL. We don't really need to talk about that. But when you look at Okorafor, you look at Kevin Dotson, you look at Kendrick Green, you look at Zach Banner, I mean, this offensive line after these guys is really tough. Obviously, Pouncey's gone now. You don't have Allejandro Villinueva anymore. You don't have some of that talent anymore. And now you're in a state where this offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL. It really was, especially last year where they could not help but Big Ben get the ball out a little bit slower. Big Ben, there's this one metric that PFF had where it's time to throw. Big Ben threw the ball like 2.1 seconds since snapping it, and then the next fastest guy was like Tua Tagovailoa with like 2.4 seconds. So 0.3 seconds, doesn't sound like a lot, but compared to 2.1 and 2.4, that's absolutely massive. Somewhere between, that's almost a 120% increase. So really that amount of time is massive. And, Roethlisberger didn't have the time to throw last year. That's why all of that intermediate passing game had to happen, because he didn't have the time for the deeper routes to develop, right? The offensive line simply could not hold up. So that's the real question. Can this offensive line hold up? And to me, when I look at this depth chart, I say absolutely not. There's no way that Zach Banner, Kendrick Green, Kevin Dotson, and Chukwuma Okorafor are gonna be able to keep up. David DeCastro will be a Pro Bowl type player. I mean, he will. He has regressed. I'm going to be real, but he's still a Pro Bowl type talent. The other guys on that offensive line though are just they're straight garbage. I'm going to just be real. They're straight garbage. Okay, so really the quick concern for me is how can you improve the offensive line? How can you get guys in the building? Either if it's through trade, either through it's improving via free agency. I mean, I see Joe Haeg as a backup right tackle. He's a solid veteran guy that you can plug and play at different positions on that offensive line. But nonetheless, this offensive line is going to get eaten up next year. It really is, and I don't think that that's going to really help this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think we're going to see the same issues. I don't think we're going to see the time in the pocket for Big Ben to throw the football, and I don't see we're going to see enough space for the running game. So overall, I'm concerned about how you can scheme an offense without a good offensive line, where you need time to develop and you need time to develop plays. For me, there isn't enough talent on this offensive line for the Steelers offense to end up being a top 8 offense in the NFL. However, I think that they're going to have stretches, and I think that they're going to have games where they're on fire, where they're completely on fire because of the pure talent that they have. I mean, Najee Harris, we saw what he was able to do in college. I think he's going to be an absolute star in the NFL. Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Deante Johnson, those guys have the ability to score from anywhere on the field. Eric Ebron really good in the red zone, and Ben Roethlisberger with the leadership and the veteran abilities he has, I think that this offense will end up being fine. I think it'll be about average, but because of that offensive line, I don't think that they'll be able to be a truly elite offense. It's really going to be an average offense that's going to have struggles, and it's going to be up and down. I think it's going to be very similar to last season, so that's something to look out for from the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, see ya.